Okay, I guess we're here. I guess we're rolling. Hey, everybody, welcome. We are so glad to see you today. Welcome to our little first of the year soiree. We just wanted to get everybody together, kind of talk about making this your best year yet, making these your best, most successful goals. We're going to talk about goals, and sometimes goals are not about financial goals. So we're going to talk about that too. Uh, Welcome. I want to introduce somebody else too very quickly, and that's Carrie Stover. Carrie, if you'll come on screen for a second, let everybody know you.
Hi.
Carrie is going to help us with this today, is going to facilitate some of the activity between your chat and questions and things like that and feed them to me. And Carrie is a rock star. If you want to meet somebody, you've always heard about if you want to get something done, you give it to a busy person. Carrie is the busiest person I know, busier than anybody I know, including myself. And yet, if you want to get something done, you give it to Carrie because she is just so efficient and so good at what she does that she amazes me. I could not survive without Carrie and without the Streamline team. So go into the chat and give thumbs up to Carrie right now because she's very important. Do you have anything you want to say before we get started?
Um, just we'll try to keep up with everybody. We'll try to get all of your questions answered as much as we can. So just drop those in the chat, and I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
All right. Well, there are going to be people who are going to be joining in as we go. So I'm going to tell you guys a couple of things. First off, my goal is to make this your best year as an artist. Now, quite frankly, what we're going to teach today can apply to anybody in your life. So you're welcome to share it with other people. We will share a replay of this. And I'm on the set of the Plein Air podcast, and we might actually turn this into a Plein Air podcast as well. So that's why we're here. And so I want to know how many people go into the goals, go into the chat, and how many people have set goals in the past but have not achieved them. Go into the chat. Now I can't see the chat right now because I'm talking to you, but Carrie can. 8%, historically, only 8% of people ever hit their goals. 8%. It's pretty low. Now, I have set massive goals in the past, and I had these big plans. I was going to double my business, or I was going to do something, right? And then nothing happened. I've had years where I set goals. I was very intentional about my goals, and then I forgot to do anything with them. I forgot to look at them, and a year passed, and then I find my old goals. It's like, you didn't even do anything about that because we get busy. We get so consumed with what we're doing that we forget about goals. So every January, of course, we're thinking about this. A lot of us set New Year's resolutions. We have intention to do great things. And sometimes we get them done, sometimes we don't. Maybe stay active in the chat. We'll like to know what you have to say. But, we get fired up, we get motivated, we get ready. We're going to just ace it. For me, 2025 was not a year I really particularly want to repeat. I know a lot of you are in the same boat. So I'm like, I'm ready for 2026, and I really have got to crush these goals. So I have had my goals done for a long time. I have communicated my goals to my team, and they of course have their own goals as well. So it's important to get a head start on it. But if you can't get a head start, now is a really good time, right? Because we're at this point where it's still January. We still have time to affect things. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to repeat the same thing year after year after year. I didn't hit my goals, didn't hit my goals. And there's a lot of stuff out there about goal setting that is completely wrong. It's misinformation. There's a lot of new science. There's a lot of new research. I'm going to talk about some of that, share some things with you, some things that have recently been discovered that are really important. So I went from being poor, I mean, dirt poor. I remember one particular week where I was, and we've all been through this, right? I remember one particular week where I'm searching through the couches for quarters. I'm going to the airports, going through the pay phones back when they had those, looking for quarters. I mean, I was desperate. I had literally had one jar of peanut butter that had to last me. And so I've been there. I understand what this is like. And so I've gone from being broke to being financially independent. And financially independent, being free, it's not always just about finance. It's being free in other areas too. So we're not just going to be talking about money here because there are other kinds of goals that are important, right? But we're going to really kind of focus on building our ideal life, right? What does my life look like? You know, if I'm an artist and I'm selling work, what does that look like? If I'm an artist, I'm not selling work, what does that look like? You know, it might be about setting goals for relationships and family things and travel, or you know, improving as a painter, or you know, something else. I set a goal this year to go to art school. I'll tell you about that sometime. And I'm like, I've been wanting to go to art school for a long time. Well, I'm going to make it happen. So I don't have anything to tell you at the moment, but I know I'm going to make it happen. So today I'm going to break down the exact principles. You want to hang with me through the whole thing. I also think, Carrie, if you'll come out real quickly, do we have some prizes for today?
We certainly can have prizes today if you would like.
Did I throw a kink into it?
You did, but that's fine. We
Okay,
can
I'll
go
tell
on
you
prize.
what, right now, let's give away a prize
Okay.
just because we want to kind of prime the pump. And so, what I want you to do is I'm going to give away a free registration to Watercolor Live, which is coming up on the 21st of this month. And
Okay.
so, why not, and by the way, if you win the prize, give it to somebody else. So, what I want you to do
You're
is go
already
in.
registered. Give it to somebody else. Don't just
That's what
win
I
it
meant.
away.
Hello. But and so what I want you to do is go in there right now and say, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me, and get started. Go in the chat right now. And then I, we're going to let it build up. I'm going to tell you something else in the meantime. And then Carrie's going to come on and announce the prize winner. Sound like a deal? Now, you guys are probably thinking, Eric, you went to the beach during Christmas. You got this massive sunburn and my face looks like it got set on fire and they put it out with a track shoe, right? So I want to tell you what's going on so that we don't create a bunch of rumors. I went to my dermatologist earlier this year or last year, and she said, Eric, you need to be doing a skin peel treatment. And I said, what's that? And she said, well, what it does is you put this cream on and you do it for 2 weeks. And what it does is um, it it zaps anything that could be coming out, you know, some pre-cancers or stuff like that. And so I've been putting it off for years because I'm like on camera every day. And so I thought, well, I'll start it the day after Christmas. And by the time Christmas is over and I'm back on camera, it will be gone. Well, the treatment actually ended today. And so I'm all scaly and, you know, I'll be back to normal. I have skin like a baby's behind before long. So bear with me. And if you're new to us, I'm sorry. This is just, I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not. I just want you to tell you what's going on here. Okay. So you guys ready to jump into this? We also have something for you today. We, by the way, are not selling anything today. We're going to tell you about some of the things we do, but we're not selling anything. But we do have a challenge that I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. And the challenge is called brushes up, phones down, brushes up. And the reason we're doing that is because, uh, I don't know about you, but I probably, if I went back and I looked at all my screen time from 2025, I would be embarrassed at how many hundreds of hours I lost. So when I set a resolution, not a goal, but a resolution for the new year, I said, I am not going to sit on the couch in front of the TV and waste a lot of time. And I am not going to spend all my time on my phone doom scrolling. The other thing is I want to paint more, right? So one of my intentions is to figure out how to paint more. And of course, we all have this problem of time. I was with a group of artists last night. We had a model and we were painting a model and we were kind of talking about this. And the idea is if you want to do something badly enough, you'll make the time, you'll find the time. You know, we're all busy people. We have families, we have caregiving, we have all jobs, we have all kinds of things that are going on, but we can always find time. you can get up an hour earlier. That's what I do. If I want to find time, I get up an hour earlier. I tend to stay up too late and waste time anyway. So I'm trying to go to bed earlier. And I'm also trying to put my phone down. So last night, perfect example. I said to myself, okay, I'm going to paint more. And so what can I do to paint more? Because I want to paint every day, no matter what. And so far this year, I've painted every day. Now it's early in the year. Today is only the 8th, but I've painted every day. So what did I do? First off, I'm on Art School Live every day on YouTube. So I thought I'll set up an easel so that I can paint along with the people who are my guest artists. I'm not going to show you guys what I'm painting, but I set up an easel right there so that I can paint uh, because I'm standing there listening to them anyway. Why not paint with them, right? And then I thought, well, what else could I do? I thought, well, I'll set up a couple of stations in my studio. I have a really great little studio. It's 16 feet by 20 feet, and it's in the backyard. And so I set up a watercolor stations, and everything is out for my watercolor. I have my oil station, everything's set up for my oil station. I have an easel out with all my paints out. And then I set up a gouache station, and then I've got my pastels right there too. So I can at any time, if I have an idea, I can just walk out there. I don't have to set anything up, because what happens is when I walk into my studio, it's like, oh, I don't want to have to dig for those pastels, or I don't want to have to find my gouache, or I don't want to have to find my acrylics. It's all out right there, set up. The paper's there, the tape is there, the brushes are there, everything that I need. And so last night, perfect, actually 2 nights ago, perfect example. I'm sitting there. I want to spend time with my wife, and sometimes she likes to watch television. I hate to watch television, but I want to be there with her. And so sometimes we'll watch something together. And so we watched a show. Then she went to bed, and she went to bed pretty early, 9:30, something like that. So I thought, well, I'll go out and paint. But what happened is I got on my phone. Next thing you know, I realized I'd been on my phone. All of a sudden something jolted me and a phone rang or something. And I realized I'd been on my phone for an hour. And so I backed off. I said, okay, phone's down, brushes up. So I ran out to my studio and I painted for an hour before I went to bed. And so now I have in my head that little clue that if I catch myself doom scrolling, it doesn't mean don't go on social media. What it means is don't spend hours doom scrolling on social media. So anyway, that's what we're going to talk about there. So, all right. So you guys ready for this? If you are new to us, if you have just discovered, I know there are thousands of people watching right now, and there will
Eric,
be, yes,
you wanted to announce the winner of the watercolor live ticket, didn't you?
I do. Are you ready for that?
I am ready for that.
Let's do it.
The winner is Tyla Haynes, or maybe it's Twyla Haynes. It was going pretty fast, so I might have misspelled it, but Tyla Haynes, you are the winner of a ticket to Watercolor Live.
All right. Outstanding. Thank you, Carrie, for reminding me. Okay. We'll do some more giveaways in a little bit. Okay. So if you're new to us, if you've never been before, if you're somebody who just discovered us somehow and you've never been on one of our events or anything, you don't know who I am, you don't know what we do at our company, Streamline, I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute, but go into the chat and say, I'm new. And if you've been around for a while, just go in there and say, I'm family. Okay. So do that. Now I'm going to give you a little tiny background. I'm not going to get into a long thing here because I want to get into the setting of goals and some of the technology that will help you with that. First off, I started as an entrepreneur as a kid. I did the lemonade stand thing, selling candles, making candles, that kind of a thing. And then I became an entrepreneur. But I got into radio at the age of 14. I got my own radio show at the age of 14 on a little local community radio station that nobody listened to. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth and learned it. And then by the time I was 15, I had a job at a commercial radio station. It wasn't a good job. It was in the middle of the night and it was playing other people's tapes and things. But I had a job as a radio DJ. And then I moved up the ladder and I became a rock radio DJ, mostly in the city of Miami on a top radio station there. And I was at the time the youngest major market radio DJ in America, which was kind of fun. And so, I got to hang out with the Bee Gees, and I got to hang out with the Tramps. It was disco era, right? Gloria Gaynor, all those kind of people. It was kind of fun. You don't even know who half those people are if you're half my age. But and then I ended up buying my own radio station. So I had my own little radio company, and then I sold them, and I made my first $1 million before I was 30 years old. So that's kind of my story. Now, since then, I've launched a bunch of other companies, a bunch of other products, and I have learned how to help other people as well. So I did some major things for some big corporations, and a lot of smaller ones. I took small companies in my local market with my radio station, and I turned them into big companies because I understood marketing. And I've also done work with some big companies. I'm not allowed to mention brands, or I shouldn't mention brands, but big companies. One of them was a major watch company. I can say that. And so there's a lot of things like that that I've done, and I got a lot of experience in marketing. I've written a book on marketing. I've got another book on marketing coming out. And then I became an artist. And when I became an artist, I launched this company. And this company is called Streamline. And the whole thing is based on one concept: give me what I wanted as an artist that wasn't available at the time. Well, that's the whole thing. Okay. So what I'm going to teach today could work for anybody, not just artists. It can apply to anybody. So let's talk about goals. And goals are not about finances alone. Now, I'll tell you a quick story. And by the way, my stories are not quick. You just need to know that. So I'm at Fall Color Week, which is a retreat that I host. And it was a really snowy day. We had this sudden snow. It wasn't supposed to happen. We were up in Canada. And so I'm kind of killing time. So I said to the 100 people that were there, I said, listen, if anybody needs a little coaching, a little advice, I'll do it for the next couple of hours. And so a couple people came, several people came, but there were two people that came, and each of them had a really interesting story. And one of them said, how do I break into selling my artwork? And I looked at their artwork, and it was really good. And I said, why do you want to sell your artwork? And they said, well, and both of them said the same thing, but at different times. This guy says, well, I just thought you were supposed to. And I said, well, there's no supposed to's. Do you need the money? He says, no, I'm retired. I have plenty of money. I don't ever need to work again. I said, then why do you want to sell your artwork? He said, well, I don't know. Why should I? I said, what most people are looking for, if they don't need money, they're looking for a little bit of a sense of appreciation. Somebody else actually appreciates my work. Somebody is willing to buy my work. So in their particular cases, I said, look, let's not make this about selling artwork. Let's make this about giving away artwork, or let's make this about helping charities, using your artwork to build for other people, looking for other ways that you can leverage and get that validation that you need. And so I developed a plan for each of those people, and they went off and did that. Now, for some people, it's about making money, and money is a different thing for everybody. So some of you watching are like new to this, and you're saying, someday I would like to just make a little bit of a living as an artist. Others are saying, I would like to quit my job and become a full-time artist, but I don't know how to do it. Others might say, I would just like to make an extra $500 a month, or, you might be retired or you might not be, but it'd be nice to have a little extra money. So all of this applies to you. What I want really for you guys to do is to figure out, what does my ideal life look like, so that it's not always about money. Because here's the deal. Money is fleeting. Money is not all it's cracked up to have. I have this buddy. He became a very wealthy man. And he had this famous saying that he always used. He said, I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is better. And for him, it was. He died a wealthy man, but he died way too young because his health was bad. I have another buddy who is probably a billionaire by now. And I'm not saying this to be braggy. I mean, these are just people I've known through my life. And this guy has a miserable life. His family doesn't talk to him. He's estranged from his kids. He's been divorced multiple times. He has all the trappings, he's got the big houses and the jets and the cars and all that stuff, but he doesn't have any joy in his life. He works all the time. He justifies it by saying he loves his work, and some people do. I love my work. I work all the time, but I have a good family life. It's not perfect. My kids talk to me, and those are the things that are really important in life. So what I did years ago, I had started this company in San Francisco. It was called Radio Central. It was the first people to do online music. And I got into that company, and I was the CEO, and I had about 50 employees, and I became really miserable really fast. And the reason was that I didn't know what the job of a CEO of a tech company was at that time, but I had gone out and raised money, raised millions of dollars, and had to build this company. And then I had to keep money coming in the door before sales happened. So I had to go out and ask people for money. I don't like asking for people for money. So, I'm out there doing pitches every day, talking to people, and they're being rude and difficult. And it was just not fun. And so I got to the point where it just was, it was not the dream that I thought it was going to be. And ultimately I failed. The company failed. Everybody lost their money. It was a real tragedy. So, and by the way, failure is a good thing, right? Because if we embrace failure, we learn from it. So anyway, it's not always about the money. So let's bring up my slides right now, if we can here. And so I'm going to go through these slides. The first slide is the types of goals. Now, there are more types of goals than this, but I want to kind of give you an idea. There are financial goals, that's clear. There are growth goals. Like I set growth goals as an artist. There might be health goals or spiritual goals, like I want to read my Bible more. I want to get in a better relationship with Jesus Christ. There might be family goals. I want to take more family vacations. I want to spend more quality time with my kids. And there might be charity or contribution goals. I might say, well, I would like to be able to give a certain amount of money to my favorite charity. So those are some of the types of goals. Now, there's another thing about goals, and that is that there are great goals. Let's see if I can get to the next slide here. I don't know why that's not going. So I'll go through this. The next thing is great goals are realistic, but they stretch you. I'm going to go into detail on these things. They're very specific and they're very measurable. They are time bound. They're broken into small chunks, and they're calendarized. Now, we're going to send you this presentation so you don't have to scramble to write it all down. So let's keep going here. Let's talk about the human brain. How do you stay motivated? Motivation is a byproduct of something else, right? Motivation is a byproduct of blood pressure. Now, there's new research to show this. Motivation isn't enough to get you through. If you're motivated to do something, that motivation doesn't last. You ever been really excited about something and then you're not excited about it? So the human brain works in a different way. What motivation does is it gets you started, but if you need to do something again and again and again, you need a habit. And so motivation is the byproduct of adrenaline running through your system, right? So if you get excited about something, what happens? The adrenaline gets into your system. You get more energy. You're more excited. You are more committed to something. You get focused, right? Adrenaline is an amazing thing. So imagine this. You're a cave woman or a caveman, and you walk out of your cave, you're walking out of your cave, you're smoking a cigarette, or at the time, a leaf, and you're walking along, and all of a sudden you hear this thump, 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 and the ground is rattling, and you look, and you're about to get under the foot of a dinosaur and get crushed. So your adrenaline kicks in and you become hyper focused. And that hyper focus is, I got to get out of here. I got to save my life. And so your brain is like, boom, you're out of there. You're moving fast. Your heart is pumping extra so you can get out of there. Or, maybe you're walking along and you see a snagglepuss tiger. I can't say that. And so you're, like, I got to save my life. And so you're either going to run or you're going to go into fight or flight mode. So these are the exact same chemicals we need for our goals. The brain understands when something is important, and your systolic blood pressure increases and sends that adrenaline into your body, and it gets released. So there is, let's see here. There's the whoops, wrong direction. There's the neuroscience. So there are two groups that were studied, and they ran in a race. Group A was told, just run the race as fast as you can until it's over. Group B was told, vividly focus on crossing the final line, the finish line. So what ended up happening is that Group A enjoyed the journey more. They felt less effort, and they actually finished faster because they were focused on the goal. And the others were just running and they didn't know what they were going to do. Have you ever run towards a goal but not really knowing, or run towards something but not exactly knowing where to go? Focus releases that adrenaline and that motivation, and it makes it easier and more fun. So what we need are what we call stretch goals. What we tend to do is we set our goals too big or too small. So you might say, well, today I make, I'll just use easy numbers. Today I make $10,000 let's go big. Today I make $100,000 as an artist. And next year I want to make $1 million. So what happens when you do a big goal like that? Your brain says, Eric, you're fooling yourself. It's not possible. You're not going to get to $1 million from $100,000. This is not going to happen. So your brain is part of the problem. And so what's happening is your brain is saying, I'm not motivated. And so what's not happening? You're not getting that adrenaline rush to drive you towards your goal. Or maybe you make a goal that's barely bigger than last year. So this year I made $100,000. Next year, I really want to just make $10,000 more. So, all right, I can go from 100 to 110. That should be easy. But again, your brain is like, Eric, I'm not motivated. This is not motivating. Both of those, a big goal or a small goal, do not trigger that adrenaline that you need. So what you want to do is create a stretch goal. So you ask yourself, okay, what would be a good stretch goal to get me further along? So you might say, well, I want to go from $100,000 to $150,000. Can I do it? I'm a little bit nervous about it. I don't know if I can do it. I might be able to do it. That's a stretch goal, because if you stretch yourself, you get your adrenaline running and you believe it's possible, but at the same time, you're a little bit nervous. If you are setting a goal and it's making you nervous, that's a good thing. Your nervous system needs to be engaged, and you need to be a little bit scared, and because that's going to help you quite a bit. So you want to make sure that you're getting that adrenaline stimulated. So maybe instead of doubling it, you increase it more than a little, but you want to be scared. You want to be stretched. The next thing is you're chasing too many rabbits, right? So you've got all these goals. Now I do to-do lists. I don't do them as much as I used to. And I would have like 600 things on my to-do list, and none of them would ever get done. And it was not until I said to myself, okay, what's the one thing that matters to me today? And then don't even look at the to-do list anymore. Just focus on the one thing. When I get that done, then I go back and say, okay, what's the next thing? So if you're chasing 2 rabbits, you're not going to catch any rabbit. you're chasing 100 rabbits, you're not going to catch any rabbits. So what you want to do is focus on one main area, and you want to find an area that lifts everything else, right? So for instance, you might have a big financial goal, but let's say that you're severely out of shape, you're severely overweight, your knees are giving out, your hips are hurting, you're in pain. You're like, I don't know. I don't know if I have the energy to hit my $150,000 goal. Well, maybe what you should do is say, all right, maybe instead of making my goal 150,000, maybe I should make my goal to get fit, right? And can I turn this around? Now, I personally was 60 pounds heavier 2 years ago. And I said to myself, I want to live the rest of my life under a certain weight. And I want to be slim and fairly trim. And I want to have some muscles. And, and I, by the way, I want to be healthy. I don't want my knees hurting, my hips hurting, any of that stuff. I didn't want my arms and hands aching. And so I set my goal to make fitness my number and health my number one thing. And amazingly, I crushed through it. I lost the weight. I got rid of my arthritis. I got my back problems under control. I got a lot of those things that were in the way. And I went to doctors, and doctors said, you can't fix this. And I didn't like their answers. So I went to different doctors until I found somebody who could fix it. So that's kind of what you want to do, is you want to say, is there a primary goal that's getting in the way of everything else? And if there is, let's set that as a goal first. Now, you might be able to set that as a short-term goal, a 90-day goal. You can lose a lot of weight in 90 days if you set your mind to it. I did. And so, or maybe it's a 6-month or a 1 year, but you don't want to be chasing too many rabbits at one time. So figure out what the things are that are, what are the primaries, because the reality, I always say, you should never have more than 3 goals. And if you have 3 goals, you can't assign an equal percentage to those goals. So let's say your number one goal is your health and fitness. And so that I'm going to give that 80%. That's my 80% goal. And then if while I'm doing that, if I can focus on number 2, let's say number 2 is travel more or something like that, then I'll say, okay, I'll give that 20%, and then I'll give the third one 10%. But that means I got to focus 80% of my time on goal number 1, 80% of my time. And so really having one primary goal is important. And when you're chasing too many rabbits, and by the way, I'm guilty of this in my business, I got a lot of rabbits, and it creates a lot of problems having all those rabbits. Is because, like, I don't know if I should be promoting Watercolor Live this week, or if I should be promoting, plein air convention this week, or if I should be promoting a retreat this week. There's just a lot of things like that. So stop chasing all those rabbits. Now you can have what I call intentions, and we'll talk about intentions later. Intentions are important as well. Okay, so next we have having no strategy. All right. So you say to yourself, we're talking about getting fit. All right, this year I'm going to get fit. So I'll just go to the gym and I'll get fit. You don't have a plan. You don't have a structure. You don't have any accountability. You just say, all right, I'm going to go to the gym. So what you need to do, first off, is you need to set your 12-month goal. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how a goal should be structured, but you set the 12-month goal, and then you say, what would have to happen for this to be the outcome? So if your goal, for instance, was a fitness goal, what would have to happen for me to lose 60 pounds? Okay, list all the options, and then start pursuing those options and say, all right, I need to get a certain part of this stuff done. I need to lose weight in 6 months. But how much weight? So, or it might be, I need to lose weight in 3 months. And so I need to speed it up. How do I do that? Well, I go to the doctor and I get something that will help speed it up. Once you have that 12-month goal, and you ask yourself, what has to happen for me to get this outcome? Then what you do is you break it into what we call rocks. Now, these are basically projects. So in our company, we do what we call managing rocks. We have 3 rocks, and we in our company, we sometimes we call them rocks, sometimes we call them majors and minors, but we have no more than 2 majors and no more than 3 minors. So no more than 5 things total. And there are a lot of other things that have to happen, because you got to keep the lights on, you got to keep doing whatever you have to do. But in terms of broken out goals, so you take that 12-month goal and say, okay, what are 5 things that are most likely to lead to getting that 12-month goal accomplished? What things had to have changed, right? So you break it out into 5 things, and then you say, okay, how do I break those 5 things out into 90-day projects? So you got your big goal. Now you say, all right, what are the 5 versions of things that are going to lead to that goal? And then you say, all right, what can I do? How can I break those goals into 90 days? How can I do a little bit of that into 90 days? And then you basically say, okay, now we're going to break it into weekly activities, and then we're going to track the output. We're not going to track the goals alone. We're going to track the output. If the goal was, if the weekly activity was to sell 1 painting this week, that's pretty easy to remember. And so you at the end of the week say, did I sell my 1 painting? Yes or no? And if you didn't, now, and you've got to sell another one next week. Now, next week, you got to sell 2 paintings. Okay, let's see. What do we have next? We have strategy would be, okay, a 12-month goal, what is needed, identify the 5 steps, the 90-day projects, the weekly projects, and then tracking the output. So you want to really break everything into weekly and daily. What are 3 things that I need to move this goal forward to this week? What are 3 things? And what are 3 minimum activities that if I don't do these, I'm going to fall behind? What are the 3 minimum activities? So it might just be a small step. It might be making a phone call. It might be writing an email. It might be painting a painting. But what are the 3 minimum activities? Because you have to get your minimum activities done every single week. Even on the bad days, you can do minimum activities. So that's the thing. I have a discipline, and that discipline is I know that if I have to get something done, I will do everything I possibly can to get that done. My team members can tell you I do this. Sometimes I drive them nuts. It's because like I got something stuck in my head and it's like, by goodness, I'm going to just get this done. We got to get this done. We got to deliver this. We got to have that hit that number, whatever. And so you need to be relentless because this is your goal. See, what happens is if you slip, then you miss one and then you miss another. All of a sudden you're going downhill and you just kind of give up on your goals. That's why you can't let anything slip. All right. So the next thing is set deadlines and be time bound. So you want to set a deadline for everything. Every big goal, it might, like I have some big goals that are not 1-year goals. I have a big 3-year goal. And so I know if I have to hit that big 3-year goal, I have to divide that into thirds. And then I have to divide that into 90 days and then into weeklies, monthlies and weeklies and so on. So I've got to set every step has to have a deadline. And then I need to be checking my goals daily. And if I miss them, I got to catch up. So that's pretty important. The next one is you want to calendarize everything. Oh, I'm sorry. I added a step in between here. You want to break everything into small chunks because big goals are overwhelming. There's that old saying, how do you eat an elephant? Go into the chat right now and say, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time, right? So you can't, if you look at an elephant, you're just like, there's no way I could eat that elephant. You eat that elephant 1 small bite at a time, then that's how it's done. So that's why it's really important to break things into weekly, monthly, daily, and so on. The next step is you want to calendarize everything. By the way, Carrie, start thinking about a giveaway because I think it's time for a giveaway in a minute or two. Next thing is calendarize everything. Schedule times for your goal reviews each week. Because here's what happens. I talked to somebody yesterday. They said, "Oh, I have my goals. They're on a sheet. They're plastered up in front of me." I did that. I had sticky notes on my computer. I had my goals on a sticky note on my computer. I never looked at it. It was right there in my face. I never looked at it. But if it's in your calendar, so if you said to yourself, weekly goal review, 10 minutes, right? And at 12 noon on Friday, how did I do towards my goals this week? And you look at it, you do that every week, you're going to stay on track. Next thing is take all your small bite projects, your 90-day projects, your monthly projects, your weekly projects, and put them into your calendar just as you would an appointment, right? So the idea being, I have to write a letter to Jim Jones on this by this date. So you plug that in, write letter to Jim Jones at 3:00 on Thursday. It works. It works tremendously well. So think about calendarizing all your projects. Now, the next thing is there are some important principles. You need clarity. You need to know your goals. You need to know your stretch goals. You need to only focus on one primary thing, what I call your 80% goal. And then you need to follow a very specific plan, right? Okay, so I'll tell you what, let's just take a break here. Carrie, let's bring you back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what do you want to give away next?
I thought we'd give away an easel brush clip.
Oh, an easel brush clip. Does anybody know what that is?
I don't know.
think
You want to tell them?
one. I think I have one around here. Well, an easel brush clip is a device. You have one there?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Oh,
Clips
yeah.
on easel. I clip it onto my backing board since I do pastel. Put my brushes in it and my blenders. It's very handy. And also my value specs.
I came up, I'll tell you what, let's give away, you can go into the chat and you can say easel brush clip or ESB, or you can say value specs. And we'll give away one of each. And so Carrie's going to start gathering names. So go in there. Which prize do you want to win? You can put both in there if you want. And then we will give away an easel brush clip and value specs. All right.
Okay.
Is this you guys getting this? Is this okay so far? If you're getting it, put something in the chat. I'm going to continue on now. Okay, next is being specific and measurable. And so specific and measurable is making more money isn't a goal. So let's just talk about specific and measurable. If you say, I want to make more money next year. How many of us have done that? I have. I want to make more money next year. What is more money? $1 is more money. A penny is more money. $5 is more money. What does more money mean? And so you have to be very specific, because if you can't measure it, you don't know if you've hit it. Specific and measurable. So if you say, I want to make $5,328 per month more than what I'm making now, then that's measurable. That's specific, right? If you say, oh, I think I'd like to travel more. Travel more is not specific, right? It's not measurable. Travel more. Okay, so travel more could mean I'm getting in the car and I'm traveling to the mall. Is that the travel more you have in mind? No. So what you want to do is you want to be specific. I want to take a 2-week trip to Italy, and I'd like to do it in, September of 2026. And then once you've set that goal, now you break it into this is a really great example. So you say, okay, now my homework is this. I got to find out, all right, what do I need to do to take that trip to Italy? First thing I need to do is I need to find out, do I have the time? Can I do it in September 26? And you look there and you go, okay, I'm going to pick a date. I'm going to block out the date for September 26. Now the next question is, who else is going with me? My wife going with me, my husband going with me, the kids going with me. So now, I'm going to take two people. The next thing is, what am I going to do on this trip? Am I going to go painting every day? Am I going to do touring? Am I going to need a rental car? Am I going to need how much is all of this going to cost? So if I'm camping, then I have the cost of camping. If I'm doing something else, so you accumulate that cost, and then you say, all right, now it's going to cost me $10,000 in total. Now your goal has to be broken into, all right, let's take that into measurable chunks. I need to get, I've got 90, I got 6 months to get to that amount of money. I got to save this much amount of money by this date, by this date, by this date. So be specific and be measurable. Carrie, have you got a winner for me?
I sure do. So the winner of the easel brush clip is Ed Yankowski. Congratulations. And winner of value specs is Olga Brinkman. So congratulations. I'm going to drop an email in the chat so you can let us know where you are so we can get those to you.
Outstanding. Okay. The next thing we need is, and we touched on this, but be realistic. Know what are the constrictions. A constriction to success is something that gets in the way of goals. So let's say there's one goal that says sell 3 paintings this week. Another goal says sell 30 paintings this week. Well, could you sell 3 paintings in a week? Probably. You've got a bunch of paintings sitting around your studio that you could sell, that you could figure out how to sell. Maybe, you call your gallery and say, I want to do a special promotion this, maybe you want to work in advance, but the idea is, could you sell 3? Could you sell 30? I don't have 30 paintings that I would have time to frame and to send out to the gallery, and I probably couldn't get 30 done. And the constriction is time. So if your goal, let's say you did 10 paintings this year, and your goal is to do 100 paintings next year, how are you going to do that? Do you even have the time possible? What would it take to do that? If you break it down, is it possible? So you want to be realistic, because there are things that are going to constrict your success. Now, we talked earlier about intentions. My intentions are not the same as goals. Now, you could set intentions as goals, but some intentions can become goals, but most intentions are things that are probably not goals. For instance, my intention is to you say my intention is to get big muscles. Well, what does big muscles mean? Be specific. I want to have 6-inch arms or 20-inch arms. I don't know how many inches people have in their arms, but the idea is I want to have 6-inch arms by February 15th. Is it realistic? You talk to a trainer, he says, no way, man, it takes 2 years. You say, okay, what does it take to do that? Then you break that goal down and that intention down. So those are things you can be working on, but always remember that your main goal gets your focus. So your intention might be to lose weight. Your intention might be to go to church every Sunday. There are other things, but those don't have to be goals. Those are intentions. They're almost like resolutions, but you still want to monitor them and measure them, but they don't have to be the same thing. Now, the other thing is there's a thing called manifestation. And I personally think that prayer is manifestation. I can't even say the word, but there's a lot of new research on this. And I had this friend, and I always said to him, you're so negative. And we're good friends. I could say that to him. You're so negative. He said, well, you, Mr. Positive, you had all the benefits growing up. You had this and you had that. And I said, that's true. But, there are people out there who are successful who didn't, and they get through life. So why don't you try being a little bit more positive? Now, that whole positive thinking movement became a big deal. And it actually does work, but nobody really understood why. But now the research, I think it was Harvard, said that they researched this, and they found that what happens is when you think about something enough, what happens is your subconscious mind absorbs it. Remember, your subconscious mind is about 80% of what's going on versus your conscious mind. And so uh, you're absorbing all these messages, and the messages are, here's a message. I can't do that. I'm not capable of doing that. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm not rich enough. I'm not whatever. I'm not worthy. So we have all this, what I call head trash going on in our heads, and you've got to manage your head trash. Now, my dad was the most positive person I ever met. He was very successful. And I said to him one day, I said, do you ever get negative thoughts? Because I never hear you say anything negative about anybody or about yourself. And he says, oh, I get them all the time. He said, the key is you have to, the minute you get them and you realize them, you got to push them out. You got to say, and you got to say, that's not like me to think that way. Put that in the chat. That's not like me to think that way. Right. So I get negative thoughts all the time too. Right. And it depends on who I'm around too. Like, oh, that person would never want to be around me because I don't have anything to offer him or her. Right. Or I'm not rich enough to hang out with those guys. Or, we get all this head trash. So you've got to overcome your head trash. And they now have information that says you need to use I am statements. When I was in the 4th grade, I used to daydream. And my teacher came up one time and she had one of those long shoehorns, plastic shoehorns. And she said, Rhoads, hold your hands out. And she smacked my hands and it stung. And I didn't even know what I did. She said, stop daydreaming, pay attention in class, which was not very productive. That's not legal anymore. But the idea is that I'd be envisioning things and dreaming things. The silly thing is that most of the things that I dreamed came true. And so I had a coach. I went to a mastermind group. I had this coach, and she said, you need to do this. I said, it's not possible. She said, well, of course it's not possible, because if you believe it's not possible, it's not possible. I said, what I want you to do is to manifest this. So I did. I had this guy come to me and he said, why don't you get this particular project going? And I said, well, that's too big. I don't know how to do it. I would need to get the TV networks involved. He said, spend the weekend manifesting it. Don't tell yourself you can't do it. So in my subconscious mind, I'm like, I am. So Wednesday, the next week, I go to this cocktail party and I meet this guy, and he happens to be the guy I needed to meet, like in the whole world. And I didn't even know he was going to be there. And I said, I have this project idea and this is what I want to do. He said, that's great. I'd like to do it. Let's meet with my team tomorrow. And I met with their team. We met multiple times, and then we got a deal to do the project. So you've got to make sure that you put yourself in an I am statement. So instead of saying to yourself, yeah, I'm not a very good artist, or I'm not good enough, say to yourself, I'm a world-class artist. I'm really a great artist. I have a show coming up at the Metropolitan Museum. Now your brain is going, Eric, that's not going to happen. You're never going to have a show at the Metropolitan Museum. Well, how do you know? How do you know? You've got to put yourself in an I am. If you're like, I am one of the richest artists in America. Now, you might be saying, how could that be? I'm making $60,000 a year. I don't even know any artists who are rich. Well, I do. I know a lot of artists who are rich. I know a lot of artists who are multimillionaires. I don't think I know any that are billionaires, but I know one that's gonna be, I know that, is making a ton of money. He's probably making $200-300 million a year. And I know I have another artist friend who's making $5 million a year as an artist. So we know it's possible. The question is, do you believe it's possible? Well, I'm not good enough to make $5 million a year. Well, I guarantee you this artist that I know that makes $5 million isn't very good, but has a good marketing brain, right? So if you put yourself into an I am statement, I am a world-class artist, I am showing at the so-and-so museum. I am this. What happens is your subconscious mind absorbs that and starts figuring out and laying out the groundwork for these things to happen. Now, I think there's probably a lot more to that, but I do believe that when I put myself in I am statements, these things happen. I have lived this. I'm living proof of this. I never thought I'd be standing in front of you guys and doing things like this and being in the art world and owning art magazines. Stuff never was something that originally crossed my mind. But once I started envisioning it, it happened. And the other thing is you want to see yourself in excruciating detail, right? Excruciating detail, right? I This woman told me, she said, whenever you go to a meeting, when you're driving to the meeting, I want you to rehearse the meeting and rehearse it out loud. Nobody else in the car, and rehearse the meeting going well. And rehearse, he says this, you say this, she says this, you say this. And so I do that. And then I go to the meeting and they almost always happen the way I envision them. And so put yourself in a situation where you're getting excruciating detail. I dream in detail, right? When I came up with the idea of the plein air convention, it was from a dream. I had this dream of Da Vinci and Sargent and all these great artists around this big long table, and they're laughing and sharing food. And there's this big room. When I woke up, I said, I have to do that. I have to create an environment where the Sargent of our day and the Da Vinci of our time are at the plein air at an event where all artists can come and they can hang out with them and they can get to know them and they can watch them teach and they can learn from them. They can go painting with them and they can just have an incredible experience. It all came from a dream. And then, I wake up from that dream. It's like, how am I ever going to do this? How am I going to pull this off? I don't think I can pull it off. And then I caught myself and said, I'll find a way. So if you catch yourself, just tell yourself, I haven't done it yet, but I'll do it. Or I will find a way. I know this seems a little bit woo-woo, and I'm not a woo-woo guy, but this stuff does work. You just need to try it. Okay, I want to tell you about something else, and we'll give another giveaway here, and then I want to tell you about a couple of things we're doing. I hope this is helpful, and we're going to go to questions. We're going to do a thing called the Phones Down, Brushes, I misspelled brush, whoops, Brushes Up Challenge. It's going to be the 12th through the 16th of this month. We're going to paint daily. We are going to send you an email every single day with an image, and we're going to put very specific restrictions on this, like do this for 5 minutes or do this for 15 minutes. And each one is a challenge. Some of them have to do with values. Some of them have to do with color. Some of them have to do with other things. But we're going to give you a chance to do this. And then if you want, you can post your paintings. You're going to have a chance to win prizes. And you're going to find that at Streamline Art Events/challenge. Carrie, let's give some more stuff away before we continue the program. Let's pull up something else. What have you got?
Okay. Do you want to give away another ticket to Watercolor Live since that's coming up?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, so and by the way, while she's doing that, in case you don't know, Watercolor Live, when COVID hit, and we were almost out of business because we had to cancel all of our in-person events, the convention, Streamline plein air convention, all of my retreats, all of our trips, all that stuff. And I was faced with having to lay off everybody in the company and go bankrupt. It was very scary. All our advertisers canceled, everything happened. And so we came up with this idea of doing online conventions. And so we started 6 years ago doing Watercolor Live during COVID. And Watercolor Live ended up being and still is the world's largest art conference. It's online. We attract people from 20, 30, 40 countries. They're watching live. It's over 4 days. We have the world's leading artists on teaching. They're doing demos. You have the chance to interact with them, ask questions. You're interacting with other artists. We've got this software that puts you in touch with each other. And this year we're doing a whole bunch of new stuff because if you've been in the past, we're shaking it up. We've got a whole new set, all kinds of really creative, fun things we're going to do this year. But it's an online conference. We thought when COVID was over, it would end. But all these people said, no, I can't get on an airplane because of my circumstances. I got kids, I got caregiving, I got whatever. I don't have the money to get on an airplane to go to the plein air convention, but I can go to Watercolor Live. And so that's what this is. It's a 4-day event. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. You got a winner? Or did we say how to win it? I guess they just say Watercolor Live, right?
Yep, I picked a winner, and it is Ross Ferdinand. Ross
All
Ferdinand,
right.
for coming to Watercolor Live. Congratulations.
Okay, we're going to follow up with you guys. That's really terrific. So what I want to do is start gathering your questions. And if you have questions, please make sure that you submit them to us. And Carrie's going to gather the questions. We also have an ability, I think, let me ask our producer, Amandine, do we have the ability to bring people on camera? If they have a camera, do we have that ability? Yes or no?
Yes, we do. Let me get that URL for you. I just need to, it is streamlinepublishing.com/question. We're going to put that on the screen in 1 second as soon as I work these magic fingers. I didn't have the right one. We are going to put that on there. It's streamlinepublishing.com/question. If you go to that and we're going to show that on the screen. If you go there, you are going to come in here to not Art School Live, to our webinar with us today. And Eric will be here and you'll be able to ask a question.
Okay, while we're gathering questions, let me just go through a couple of things. There's some new people. They don't know who we are or what we do. This all started when we created Plein Air magazine. I decided, my wife said, get out of the house because I was painting in the back bedroom. She got pregnant with triplets. She said, I can't stand the smell, get out of the house. I went to the garage. She said, I can't stand the smell. So I started going outdoors. I didn't even know people painted outdoors. And so as a result, I created Plein Air magazine. So that's kind of the foundation or the root of it all, but we've gone so much further than that. We now have a thing called the Plein Air Convention. And it's basically a bunch of people who get together, we paint together, we have 80 instructors. We learn together. We have the top artists in the world teaching on 5 different stages simultaneously. So you can, if you don't like one, you can go to another. You don't have to just sign up for one. And if you don't get what you want, be frustrated. You can just go from one to the other and watch one for a while, go to the other. And so that's a cool thing that we do. We've got a giant expo hall. This year, it's going to be in the Ozark Mountains. And I think this is going to be our biggest because you can drive to it. Next, we have all these online events like Watercolor Live. We have Plein Air Live, Realism Live, Pastel Live, Acrylic Live, Gouache Boot Camp, and Art Business Mastery, which is a day coming up in April where we're going to be teaching you how to, we're bringing a lot of experts on how to do business, how to make money as an artist. But all of these are great. They're inexpensive, they're easy, and they're all online. We have these winter retreats. Retreats where we all get together and hang out and paint. We have an event called Winter Escape, which is coming up in February. It's sold out, but we're going to be on the beach in Hilton Head. We do one every year in the Adirondack Mountains. That's my publisher's invitational. And each of these is about 100 people. We hang out for a week. We paint every day. We give you a paint map. We go to the same locations together, or you can go off on your own. It's an experience. People make lots of friends. They laugh a lot. We sit up at night. We do portraits. We play music. We sing. We have a lot of fun. So Winter Escape is sold out. Paint Adirondacks and Fall Color Week, which is going to be in Bar Harbor, Maine, or in Acadia National Park this year. They're still open. I do lots of trips. We've got 2 big announcements coming soon. We're just finalizing details. It's taken longer than I want. But we take people all over the world plein air painting. And so we've got some big things happening. Hold these dates, write them down, November 6th through 19th of this year and May 15th through 27th of next year. Okay. And then we also have painttube.tv, where we have over 700 full-length art instruction courses on video with the world's leading artists teaching painting. You can watch it on your home. They're professionally produced and really great stuff. And that's what I've got. So now let's go to the questions. Carrie, do you have any questions?
I do have a couple questions. How do you get over the fear that paralyzes every attempt to start painting, no matter how strong the motivation and the adrenaline?
Um, you just you just have to suck it up and do it. I think the thing that we were all kind of trained wrong. I know I was. So fear is something that we should embrace. Remember when I talked about adrenaline getting stimulated when you fear a goal? When you have fear of something, it is actually working to your favor. So if you embrace the negative part about fear and just say, this is my motivation to get this done. Look, the deal is, I used to think I didn't want to paint in front of anybody because my paintings were awful. I'm going to show you something. I just discovered this when I was cleaning the garage. I'll show you this. Now, this is awful. And by the way, it's very dusty. This is the first landscape painting I ever did. It looks like worse than Grandma Moses. It's awful. And I framed it and put it in my house. I put it in this frame and it's just terrible. And I look at that now and I go, man, I am so glad I did what I did. Keep your eye on the target. Keep your eye on the ball. I'll show you something I did. Here's something I did recently, quite a bit. It's not in focus, but here's a couple of gouache paintings I've done. And so, there's a big difference between what I did there and what I did originally. And so keep your eye on the ball. You can do this. You can get good. You can get to a point. I have people who have watched my daily show. I have people who've come up and got our videos on PaintTube. And they have told me that they've ended up learning how to paint, getting into shows, and they never believed they could. So the first thing is just to go for it, no matter what you believe. We have in our society this belief that you have to have talent to do painting. We don't believe you have to have talent to become a lawyer. No, to become a lawyer, you go to law school and then you learn and then you practice and you eventually get good at it. That's the same thing for painting. You learn a system. Most people who teach don't have a system. I have systems. And I believe that systems are the key to everything. I learned how to paint. I'll show you another painting. Hang with me. I keep this in front of me because I want to show people this is the very first painting I ever did after I got instruction. You just saw the first painting I did without instruction. This is the first painting I did with instruction. And that's a value study, a black and white. And so anything is possible. And of course, I've hopefully come a long way since then. So the idea is just keep your eye on the target. Always keep your eye on the target. If you do that, you'll overcome that. I think we have a question on video. Maybe we don't. Okay. Next question.
We do have one. This is the first time I've done it, so we're gonna add them to the stage. This is Deanne. Hi, Deanne. How are you?
Hi,
I'm
Deanne.
good. How are you?
You like my sunburn?
Hi.
Hi. Okay. What's your
Yeah.
question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. We hear you. What's your
It's
question?
working really well. Happy New Year.
Thank you. You
It looks
too.
really good. I've been there and done that. Exactly the same way. My
Outstanding.
question is, yeah, I can hear you. You got me? Okay. That's good. How to set reachable goals for your business. We're talking about, let me make sure I don't have feedback. Hang on. With your business and if you can't afford to hire people, so we're trying to keep these goals with business as an artist and moving everything forward all at the same time. So the one woman band thing before you have a conglomerate like you do, Eric.
Well, I started out, Deanne, as a one-person show. So there are two tools that are growth tools. One tool is time. The other tool is money. If you don't have money, then you have to have the time, right? So when I first started my business, and this was 40 years ago, I had nothing. And so what you've got to do is say, all right, if I don't have the money to start it, then I can take the time. So what I used to do back in the dark ages when we didn't have email, I would write letters to try to sell people on things, or try to get appointments, or I would make phone calls. I would make, if I had time, I'd make 10 phone calls a day or 30 phone calls a day, or I would make, emails, or I would do direct marketing postcards and sit up all night putting together mailing lists. We didn't have the internet. And so there's a lot of things you can do with time. The thing you want to watch out for, Deanne, is you want to look for things that you can leverage immediately, right? So do an inventory and say, what do I have that I can leverage? What do I have that can give me the help that I need? So a lot of artists have the leverage of a spouse, right? Or a partner. So the idea would be, Kathy Odom's husband is her manager. Now he helped her as a manager while he was working, and did a little bit of work on it and built her career. And then as soon as she started making enough money, he quit his job, and then he focused on her full time. Now their business is twice as big or 3 times as big. So maybe you can leverage a friend. Maybe you have somebody who can help you. A gallery is a great leverage point. If you spent the time really working, and I talk in my books a lot about how to get into galleries. I've got a new book coming out in the future. If you can get into a gallery, then now you have somebody who's working for you without having to pay them. You pay them a commission, but you don't have to pay them anything up front. If a gallery's asking for money up front, probably not the right gallery. But if you get somebody to say, Deanne, I really like your work, I'd like to carry it in my gallery. Right now I'm in 2 galleries. I've been in 3. The most I've ever been at one time is 3. And I was super nervous the first time around, but I got somebody to look at my work. They brought me into the gallery. And so now they're working for you. They're selling your paintings. And then, you ask yourself, okay, can I get more leverage points? Can I get some more people to, can I support enough paintings to get into 2 galleries, and then maybe 3? I don't recommend more than 3 ever, but some artists can do it. But you have to produce good paintings and you have to produce inventory. Did that answer your question? Or did we lose her?
I think it did. Well, they can't hear you if they're in the green room, so she dropped out so she could hear your response. So,
okay.
I think that did. We've got one more in here with Reza, I think is how you say her name. So let's see if I can bring her in. This is new to me, having to add people to camera. So let's see.
All right. Well,
Reza,
you learned some.
There she is.
Hi.
Raisha.
Hi. Thank you for doing this today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, I live somewhere very rural, and I was wondering what's the best way to sell my artwork when I live out in the middle of nowhere?
Where do you live?
Southern Alabama.
Do you have a banjo on your knee?
I don't, but I have a lot of dogs on my porch.
All right. I like that. Okay. Well, so first off, how many paintings do you want to sell in 2026?
As many as I can. If I could sell 3 or 4 a month, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. All right. So let's be specific. Let's say 3 or 4 a month.
Yes.
All right.
4
Are
a
there
month would be
are there
wonderful.
3 or 4 people within a 10-mile radius of where you live who you could sell paintings to?
Yes.
Okay. There's your answer. Right. So we all have this, we all tend to have this thing of bigger is better, and bigger isn't always better, right? So if let's say you want to sell 40 paintings a year, is there a way you could sell 40 paintings in your own town? And the answer, of course, is yes. The answer is, there's a local coffee shop, there's a local restaurant, there's some place that you could do a show. You could do promotion with a local business and have them working for you. You don't have to be in an art gallery. Now, you could try to get into an art gallery in Mobile or one bigger city or something like that. So you're doing it regionally. I have a friend who only works with galleries regionally because he wants to be able to know the gallerist, drop things off, talk to him, see how things are going, drop in to see if they're hanging his artwork, those kinds of things. But at the same time, there's always a way. Now, let me ask you this. Are there any rich people who live in your community?
Yes, there's doctors and lawyers and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So where do the rich people hang out?
Maybe the hospitals. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So that's a really great answer. Okay. So what if you were to do an art show in the hospital?
That's a good idea.
Okay. So now you're getting your work in front of all the rich people
Yeah.
and all the people coming in and out. Now, I have a friend who sold a painting to a cancer patient who bought his painting because she wanted to look at it every day while she was going through her treatments. And
Yeah.
she said it got her through her treatments. So getting your artwork out at a show at the hospital is a good idea. Where else do rich people go?
Restaurants,
Restaurants. Okay. Where else do they go?
spas,
What do doctors do on their day off?
golf
Where do they golf?
at the big golf resorts.
Okay. So you can work out something with the big golf resorts and say, hey, I want to give some lessons at the golf resort, and they'll invite all the rich spouses, might be wives, might be husbands, and then you can say, I'm going to do a free demo for everybody, and by the way, here are 30 paintings that I brought in so you can see what I do. And you can say, by the way, I do make these available for sale if anybody's interested. All right.
Yeah.
I have a friend who sold 40 paintings to one guy at Christmas time. 40.
Wow.
So that you would make your year with one guy. So don't tell yourself that you have to have this perfect environment. You can do it locally.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great idea. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
But just think, and that, I mean, landscapes, that's golfing. You're out there on the course.
Yeah, go do golf course paintings if you want to do that. I have
That's
a friend
true.
I have a friend that makes $1 million a year doing golf course paintings.
Oh, wow. I never thought about golf courses.
What he does is he does paintings of golf courses, and then he makes prints of them, and then he puts the prints in all the golf shops all around the region, and sells them for 50, $60 a print. And he goes and paints all the famous golf courses around the world. And so he's making bank just doing golf courses.
And then you don't have to stand in weeds.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you, Raisha. Is it Risha or Raisha?
Risa.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very
so
much.
much. It was nice to talk to you. Thank
Nice
you.
talking to you. Happy New Year. If you guys want to come on camera, we can make that happen. Just go to what's this, Carrie?
Streamlinepublishing.com/questions. We are about out of time. I have another question for you, and it is, I'm dabbling in art and I told myself I want to get good this year, but I don't know where to start. Where do I find an instructor? What do I do?
Well, if you're living where Risa is living, you might have a problem. So just a brief on that. So when I started learning to paint, I tried to do it on my own, and it was a terrible, as you saw, experience. I just wasn't doing a good job, and I knew it wasn't good, and I didn't know how to fix it. My paint was clumpy. I didn't know how to deal with it. So my wife bought me an art lesson at a local art center, and I got there, and it was awful. It was a terrible experience. The instructor didn't know how to teach. He couldn't teach me what I wanted to learn. And, he was just saying, just express yourself. Well, I didn't want to express myself. I wanted to learn to paint like a landscape or something. And so, and then he told me, he said, you really shouldn't do this. You're not cut out to be an artist. What a terrible thing to say. He's going to a very bad place for saying that. So, fortunately, I had the gumption to continue and try to do this. But, the world is different today. When I first started painting, there were no resources. There were only local artists to go study under. Today, we have, for instance, PaintTube TV. We have 700 top artists, top painters doing we've got like Cesar Santos. We got it's a 20 or 25-hour course on portrait painting, professionally produced, where you can really see the detail with high definition. And so, there's stuff like that. Things like Watercolor Live, really great examples where you can learn anything you want. We've got everything you can imagine: watercolor, acrylic, gouache, oil, et cetera. And then, of course, there are a lot of artists who are teaching online individually too. I think the thing is, you want to try and get yourself involved in community And because if you know other artists, they know things you don't know, right? So there's a thing, it's one of our sponsors at Watercolor Live. It's called Art DB, like Art Database. And it's basically a place where artists can communicate with other artists, where they can be in communion with other artists. So like if you can find artists who live where you live. Now it's fairly new, so that might not happen right away. Or, you say, hey, I'm traveling to Paris. I want to find somebody in Paris I can go painting with. So that's the kind of thing that will help, because if you can hang out with a couple of artists, get involved with the local artist community, that will have a big impact on you, because these people can teach you and help you. We do have another one who's just entered. We can go a little tiny bit longer, I think, if that's okay, Carrie. And then maybe we'll give away one more big prize. Okay, we have Mary Butler. Mary, what's your question?
Oh, it doesn't look like she's connected her camera.
Oh, okay. All right. Do you have any other questions in the meantime?
Let's see here. Let's see. How important is social media for getting noticed?
Well, so when I first learned marketing, there was no such thing as social media. Marketing, basically, you could advertise, you could do mail, you couldn't even do email, right? So you could send letters, and that's kind of what you could do. You could buy an ad in a magazine or a newspaper or a TV station or radio station, or you could, and so that's media advertising. You could drop a package or a postcard in the mail. Now, of course, things are different, and social media is a really wonderful tool, but it's not the only tool. And the one thing that every expert will tell you is, if you're relying 100% on social media, you're missing 50% of the market. So we all get this sense of overconfidence. I know I do, right? So I have a lot of followers, and so if I post something, let's say on Instagram, my brain says, okay, it's going to go to all, I don't know what the number is. Let's say it's 48,000. So if I post something on Instagram, I'm thinking, okay, whenever I post this, all 48,000 people are going to see it. But the reality, Instagram's only going to send it to about 1%. And so maybe a couple hundred people are going to see it. If people get engaged, if they write comments, if they share it with other people, then Instagram's going to say, oh, I'll send it to another 10% or 1% or something. And so it's gradual. But most of the things we post never get seen by most people, including not everybody on our list. And so we get this sense of confidence that's a false sense of confidence. You want to, it's really hard to answer that question because I don't know your strategy. But, and I go into depth on this on Mondays on my YouTube show. It's called Art Marketing Monday. And so I go into a lot of things about marketing. This is more focused on goal setting. But in marketing, you want to know, who am I going after? What am I trying to say? What do I want them to do? What do I want them to think of me? And so I can't answer a question like that because I don't know the answers to those things. So what if, for instance, all you were doing is going after 80-year-old women, right? And okay, where do 80-year-old women hang out? I don't know, but they probably watch a lot of television, or maybe you can reach them with direct mail, but maybe they're not hanging out as much on social media. Some are, some are not. My mother would not have, she didn't know how to, neither my mother or father were on social media ever. And even though it was while they were alive. So it depends. And remember, social media is like a billboard. You're going by at 60 miles an hour, right? So you're doing this, you're scrolling constantly. Everybody's scrolling constantly. And unless you have something that shouts out, stop, then you're going to need to get in front of them thousands and thousands of times before you're going to get their attention. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what's my strategy? How do I get their attention? And if I do get their attention, then what am I going to tell them? And then how am I going to convert them into a customer? All right, Carrie, any other questions?
That is it. That's all of our questions.
Okay, so let's talk about the challenge one more time, and how to get involved in that challenge, because this is really going to be fun. It's called Phones Down, Brushes Up. It's a 5-day, 15-minute challenge. We made it 15 minutes because everybody can find 15 minutes. And we would love for you guys all to do this. Keep that slide up there. We would love for you guys to do this. Go to streamlinepublishing.com/challenge. Now, my little company is called Streamline Publishing. So, phones down, brushes up. We want you to take 15 minutes and ignore your social media and 15 minutes to paint. 5 days in a row, we're going to do a little challenge. And we're going to show you, for instance, we're going to send you every day one email. And it's going to be a real simple email. It's going to say, here's what's today's challenge. There might be like one on creating a small painting on values. We want you to paint small. We want you to just master one thing. And we want you to get instinctive, right? Instinctive means 15 minutes, cut it off at 15 minutes. Don't get in there and noodle every little thing. We are intentionally using this as a tool to help you loosen up, get a little bit more instinctive, but also learn some things that you don't know. I designed this challenge. I've been very deliberate about everything I'm asking you to do. And you have my guarantee that if you do 15 minutes each day and you do it, you will become a better painter. Now, is it going to make you a master artist? No. But is it going to make you a better painter? Yes. You're going to learn something from it, even if you're an experienced painter, because we tend to forget the basics. Those basics are so important. My instructor, who taught me how to paint that flower I showed you earlier and many other things, he said, every year, I want you to promise me, I want you to do a black and white value painting every year of your life. He said, he was probably 70 at the time. He said, I do a value painting once a year, no matter what. And it's a good idea to just pick a date and say, okay, I'm going to do that. So we're going to do a value painting. We're going to do a color challenge. We're going to do something interesting with color. We're going to do a edges challenge. So these are things that are going to help you. They're going to remind you, and we're going to have prizes attached to them. So you don't have to show your artwork, but you can. You can send your artwork in. We'll show it to everybody else. And we also are going to be giving away some stuff with this. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And the goal here is put your phone down, right? You are killing your time. You're getting these wonderful dopamine rushes. It feels good to be just scrolling through and reading everything. But I've told myself, they have a timer on Instagram. I have it set at 15 minutes. It pops up at 15 minutes, and you can say 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes or no more minutes. And I try, when that pops up, I try to just say, okay, I'm putting it down. Because, and you probably can do this with other apps, because if you want to get better at anything, if you want to spend time on your goals, you want to get better at painting, my big thing is I think that all of us who are trying to learn to paint or trying to get to the next level of painting, that we need to constantly be exposing ourselves to new things, new ideas, trying new mediums. Like if you're an oil painter, I went to Watercolor Live and I thought, I don't really want to learn watercolor painting, but I went, I hosted it, of course. And then I started watercolor painting, and it's like it freed my brain. It started teaching me things. And I actually have techniques that I learned on Watercolor Live that I am able to apply to my oil painting. But now I'm also a watercolor painter, and I can't believe this, but I got a watercolor painting in a museum when I went to China. And they're like, this is wonderful. And they put it in their permanent collection. So that was pretty cool. So the idea here is that you can get yourself out of your comfort zone. We all get stuck. We get jammed up. We're like, we have this, it's like writer's block. It's artist block. We can't figure out what to paint, or we lose our enthusiasm. So I got my enthusiasm back when I started painting in gouache, in watercolor, in pastel, in acrylic. I started getting involved in all of those. I told myself, oil painting is a lifetime challenge. I could spend a whole lifetime and never get good enough at oil painting. But what I've found is, because I'm playing with watercolor and gouache and pastel and other things, I'm actually getting better at oil painting. And I'm also getting better at those mediums. And so I think these things are really great tools for us to get to the next level. And challenge yourself. Uh, I have a buddy, no names. I have this buddy, and he's a really good painter. He's not a great painter. He's just a really good painter, good, solid basics. And I said, how long you been doing this? And he said, like forever, and his whole career, and he's making a good living and everything. And I said, do you ever try anything new? Do you ever like push yourself? No, I just want to stick with what I've got. I said, come with me. We went plein air painting. He had never been plein air painting. I said, let's try this. Just let's do this for a few weeks. And we did it for a few weeks. All of a sudden, his work started getting better. He started pushing himself, because when you're plein air painting, you see light and you see color that you can't see in photographs. And of course, you're having fun. You're outdoors. You're social. You're getting a sunburn. You wear a hat. And so he got better. He got out of his comfort zone. His work got looser. It was really remarkable to see. And he's a much better painter today. And he would visibly thank me for that, for getting him out of his comfort zone. We all have to push ourselves out of our comfort zones, get out there and get to the next level. You need to set goals. You need to have a plan. You still have time to ace your goals for the year. And if I were you, I would take this, I would watch the replay. We'll send a replay to everybody. We'll send the slides, to everybody. If I were you, I would pay attention to this stuff and I would do this. The science is there. If you can get that adrenaline running because your blood pressure is rising, because you're excited about something, you push yourself out of your comfort zone. You don't raise your goal just a little bit. You don't raise it too high, but you push yourself out like, oh man, I'm nervous. I don't know if I can do that. That's when you hit your goals. That's when you do this. And every one of you has a goal. There's something that is in your heart. You could be 100 years old and you know what? You're saying, life's not over. I still want to get to be a better painter, or I still want to sell this, or I want to do this. Don't sit back watching the news all day long. You want to be vibrant for every day that you have breath. And when I was a kid, the old people always said, kid, you have to pay your dues. I said, no, I don't. And of course I didn't. I was young and I was enthusiastic, and I went out there and I did things that they said were impossible to do. I did them when I was 20 years old. And I owned my own radio stations. I'm not trying to brag, but I owned my own chain of radio stations by the time I sold it. By the time I was 30, I bought it when I was 22. And I didn't have any money. I didn't have any way to buy it, but I figured it out. And there's always a solution, but it starts with a plan, a goal. You guys can do this. You guys can do this, whatever it is. Now, don't tell yourself, get rid of that negative thinking. Just say, you know what? I'm going to spend some time on this and I'm going to do it. This is a public service to you guys today. We wanted to give back to you. You have given so much to us. You've attended our retreats. You've bought our videos. You've been on our international trips. You've been to the plein air convention. You've attended, Watercolor Live, Pastel Live, Realism Live, Gouache Live, our Business Mastery Day, Acrylic Live, all of these things. We want to give back to you. So today wasn't about selling. Today was about giving. And that's what really makes for a great life. One of the things I always set in my goals is I have a giving goal. And I don't talk about the numbers publicly. We don't brag about it. We're not one of those companies that says, we're a champion for this, or we give money to that. We don't talk about that. We just do it, right? And we want to do it quietly. But we have goals for giving. And my goals are about giving back. My goals are about, look, you guys have helped me get my kids through college. I got all three are launched right this week. One's moving away with a new job. Another one's staying home with a new job. One's already out on his own. And it's like, woohoo, no more payroll. So this is now it's me time. I get to have some fun and stop having to worry about making money. But you guys have given richly to us. We want to give richly back to you. We do a lot of things. Of course, we have Plein Air Magazine, we have Fine Art Connoisseur Magazine, and we have 6 newsletters that are free. And those newsletters will get you inspired. They'll teach you things. You know, we have one for plein air, for pastel, for fine art, for realism, for watercolor. We just have so much. And we will, I don't know, Carrie, if you can do this, but we have a thing that shows everything that we do. I think it's streamlinepublishing.com/everything, but I'm not sure. But if we can put it up on the screen or in the chat or something before we go, that'd be great. But I just want to thank you guys for allowing us to serve you. This is all about service. You know, we're on earth not to make money. There's nothing wrong with making money, but we're on earth to serve other people, right? We want to be people of service, people who help others, people who lift others up, people who encourage others. And we need you to let us serve you, and we need you to help us serve other people. And so thank you for attending today. We do have that up, the streamlinepublishing.com/art. That's where you find everything that we do. I want to thank Carrie, and I want to thank the entire Streamline team. We have like 55 people, and these people work hard. They worked over the holidays. They're always working for you guys, and we're always trying to better ourselves. I had a big meeting the other day about how do we push ourselves to the next level to make this a better experience for you guys. And so we want your feedback. We want you to tell us what you need. I'm going to give you my personal email, and I check my email. So I want you to know that if you have something you want us to know about, it's eric@pleinairmagazine.com. That's easy. So I want you to tell me, what do you need? What should we be doing? What's going to make your life easier? What's going to make your art better? What kind of experiences do you want from us? And I hope that I'll meet some of you either at the plein air convention or at one of my retreats, because then I get one-on-one time, right? I get to hang out with you. I get to paint with you. And that's really golden, precious time for me. So thank you guys for tuning in today. I know we ran a little bit long, but I hope this has been valuable. Go back through those notes, look at the slides. We'll send you the replays. And thank you again for being a part of our family. Good night.